Can we start the second session? Okay. So, good morning. I will present the speakers. So we have good morning to Monica and Polliana. They will share the presentation. Monica received her bachelor in pedagogy from the University of Brazil, also her master in psychology from the same university, and doctorate in psychology from University of Brazil, and your postdoctoral degree from University of Alba, 2017, I assume working with Vlad, maybe? Experience in psychology, working with the following subject: creativity, human development, and education. Your institutional affiliation is adjunct professor at the Department of School and Development Psychology. And please, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Whoa, sorry. I was dealing with this. I forgot to. Okay, thank you so much. Okay. We are here to present to you a project research that we developed in the last year. And Polliana is my student. Actually, she has been working with me since she entered at the university. She's a very nice person, very prepared to stay here and to share with me this presentation. So, we have this project to present. Actually, this is the first moment of this project. We are planning a second moment that will take us another year, but it will be very challenging. We are investigating and developing creativity at schools, a proposal by the Cultural Psychology of Creativity. I've been working with this model since 2014, and we've been developed a lot of research in our lab, and it has been very interesting to enter methodologically and so new theoretical approach. So, by the Cultural Psychology of Creativity. I'm going to introduce, and Polliana will finish our presentation, okay? So, I'm going to present some theoretical standards that we've been working on. And the inquiry into the psychology of creativity has since long dealt with the issue of how to apply research findings to practical life. Creativity is something that remembers practice all the time. And always we are thinking about how to create. Am I a creative person? How it means to be a creative person, or how can I know if this thing that I create or this idea or this project are a creative one. So practice all the time. These efforts have led to countless training model of creativity schools for creativity schools, which made a relevant set of contributions to the interface that connects psychology and education. We have here a lot of people who work on this, and I really respect Professor James Kaufman. Is one of the person I've been reading a lot, and he has been working with creativity and education for a long time either. The psychology of creativity has efficiently done its homework, but for some researchers, and I am one of them, this was not enough to understand relations between creativity and education, and to think about to develop creativity or to teach creatively, that I think there are different things. This research project set up to make a somehow different move from the traditional path of creativity training for schools or educational settings. We are not trying to rediscover the wheel. We are just trying to do differently. We intend to investigate creativity development process at a school setting and build, along with the skill community, actions that promote creativity to benefit its students and teachers. We decided to enter in the school to investigate what it means creativity for these people and try to work with them and create together with teacher and students activities, programs, actions, we can name it whatever you want, in order to develop creativity in this specific setting. Okay, will become our second part that we're gonna start in August. And try to work with them and create. We propose to co-construct a corpus of activities with a potential to promote creativity with the skill community by investigating the ways this phenomenon evolves and it's perceived by its groups. Such perception of a co-construction of meaning and of creative practice is linked to the theoretical reference of the cultural psychology of creativity. From the perspective that considers the emergence and development of creativity as a socio-genetic, systemic, complex, and semiotically mediated process, circumscribed by a reversible time based on subjects' action in the world, it would seem rather incoherent to arrive at school with a ready-made creativity development project without taking into account its peculiarities as a social, cultural, and human developmental setting. Thus, a presumed pathway is that creativity development can emerge based on the interactions between subjects embedded in their context where they live. This will be, therefore, an active investigation that connects its interventions to social cultural transformation practice in accordance with research action model. We have some pictures from the activities the children developed in our data collected. So, we're going to present you our methodology and our results that we share, result and conclusion together, because our conclusion is the beginning of the new project, the second stage of this project. That means to create this program or these activities for specifically this school, these teachers and these students. I will share with Polliana and she will going to continue the presentation. Thank you very much.
So, hi, I will talk a little about our methodology. We had 3 goals. The first one was to investigate how a teacher interacts with the children in order to promote creativity in a classroom setting, following an observation methodology. The second one was to identify teachers' views about creativity development processes using a semi-structured interview. And the last one, to co-construct and apply a creativity development activity, a structured activity in partnership with students and teachers based on findings of the 2 previous research goals. That's the last part that Monica just told you about. The second one was to identify teachers' views about creativity development. The methodological design was an action research with the purpose of investigating and intervening alternate positions through the process of data construction. And the procedures were: the first stage of data construction, 5 ethnographic observation sessions in the school context, semi-structured interview with the teacher, and carry out a structured activity with the objective to develop creativity in children. And this activity was filmed. intervention alternate positions through the process of data. The instruments we used: observation protocols, semi-structured interview guidance, video recording of structured activity. Data were analyzed through a qualitative, constructive, interpretive approach, considering the methodological contributions of cultural psychology. And the second stage of data construction will begin in August. The second stage will integrate the results found in the first stage into a creativity development program made exclusively for the school in question. And the creativity development program will be built from the results of the first stage presented here that we will share with you now. So, the results and the conclusions of the observations that were the first part of our project. We noticed that the school practices are very traditional, so one of our conclusions is that it is necessary to invest in teachers' preparation to deal with creativity, but considering which skills teacher already have. And we were thinking about working with the school and with the teachers, focusing on what they already have, not on what they ideally would have, because that's not, I think it's, that's not the reality, especially in a public school in Brazil. And the second thing that we noticed is this emphasis on competition. So we thought about working on the opposite pole, emphasis on cooperation, because it's very relevant to focus on cooperation when we talk about creativity. If we consider that creativity is always a social action, so to promote creativity in school, I think we should promote cooperation, because to create is to cooperate. And we need to consider that all creation acts are collective. Nothing is made only by one person. And when we cooperate, we are here for the other. We are here to construct new values. And this is totally possible to do in a school with what they already have. If we consider that creativity is always a social action. And we notice excessive control over children's activity. So we thought about needing this challenging physical environment, inclusive emotional context, and freedom for action. And when we cooperate, we are here for the other. We are here to. So about the interview, that was the second instrument we used. We interviewed this one teacher, and we noticed that she understands creativity as a predominantly problem-solving, like dimension. I don't know if that's the right word. So we thought about redrawing conceptions of creativity for teachers, and. We also noticed that the teacher understood a creative teacher as the problem solver teacher. So we also thought about expanding teachers' perception of creativity. And teacher, she limited students' actions in search of results. Creativity needs space, permission, and freedom. So boundaries will appear in the way of creation, of course, but it may not be necessary to set limits from the beginning of the process. So we also thought about expanding teachers' perception. And the last part, the structured activity, it took like 35 minutes. It was video recorded, and the kids had to collage to some shapes that we prepared, and they were invited to create using this material on a large sheet of paper on the floor. And the goal was to be a collective work. And the last slide that we brought here was the things we noticed. Teacher, she was all the time controlling children's creative action. So we thought about perhaps the teacher should mediate the creative act of children, creating new possibilities. She was also creating unnecessary rules while the kids were doing this activity. So the question is, how about letting the children create their own rules and problematize these rules? And also we noticed that she was dissociating creativity and fun, which made us think, why do schools insist on dissociating learning and creativity from pleasure? And the last point that we noticed was the teacher, she doesn't see the students as they are. So, and we thought about people having this vision of themselves and our necessity to respect this. And these are the conclusions that we're going to explore in the second part of the project. Thank you.
Why do schools insist on dissociating learning and creativity
Okay.
and pleasure?
Thank you so much. Is there any questions?
The last point that
from
we
you?
noticed was the teacher, she doesn't see the students as they are. So, and we thought about people having this vision of themselves and our
So, hello.
necessity
Thanks very much for your
to respect
presentation. Very interesting
These are the
presentation.
conclusions
I'm
that
Dimitris
we're
Banis from
going
Greece,
to
yeah? And I would like to ask you some
explore
questions
in the
about the
second
school
part of
because I
the
didn't understand much. How old were the children? What kind of school was it? What did they have? Was it an extracurricular activity or was
Thank you so
embedded
much.
within
Is there
the
any questions?
all of these things? You know, I didn't know. I didn't understand much, or I don't know if I missed it.
The children was 6th year. In Brazil, it's something like the end of the kindergarten, I guess.
Yeah, and I would like to ask some
The-
questions about the school because I
yes.
didn't understand much. And there was one like nursery school children with one, so they don't have a proper, they don't have a formal curriculum. Yes, it is more like an activity. They do activities in Brazil.
No, actually they have a formal curriculum, and they are being prepared to the next year when they become to learn how to write and stuff like that. And actually in the curriculum there is nothing about creativity. I think in Brazil we don't have any proposition in this sense.
More like an activity.
I just understand what you asking me. So sorry, I can't hear you. Okay. They are being prepared to the next year. Okay, okay, okay. Stuff like that.
One more question, please.
Actually, in the curriculum, there is nothing about creativity.
Hello,
I
Susan
think in
Gardbo
Brazil
from
we
Uni
don't
SA,
have
Australia.
any proposition in this
I was
sense.
very interested that you said that your
I
the
just
project,
understand
the
what
second
you're
half of the
asking me.
project,
So
you're
sorry,
going
I
to
can't hear you.
create something
Okay.
for the school to use. How
Okay.
transferable do you think that's going to be to other sites? So do you think that other schools are going to be able to use this resource that you produce as well?
Actually, we didn't think about this, but I think it's part of our theoretical propose is that creativity needs to be adequately to some kind of setting sometimes, even in schools, because schools are the place of the diversity. So it's very complicated to create a set of activities for development creativity. For example, in my city, I live in Brasilia, and we have public schools which attend very poor persons and which attend peoples from the middle class with more money, and we have.
If you shorten your answer because we need to close.
Okay, so I think it's not a good way to walk. To use the same process to develop creativity to the whole school. This is my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Monica and Polliana, thank you. Thank you. Open your presentation. Thank you. Okay. It's okay, thank you. Okay, Libor is an assistant professor in English and director of the Masaryk University Language Center in Brno. His international teaching and teacher training activities include a variety of language soft skills. However, his main academic interest lies on the creative approach to language teaching, CALT. Libor's interdisciplinary work is based on his formal academic backgrounds, MA in English, World History, PhD in Political Science, informal drama education. He's a director of the Biggie Theater Workshop to the Sanremo. This is the main important thing, I'm sorry. ICT enhanced learning activities and later complex CALT research. He is a blogger, editor, and author of online courses and publication. The stage is yours, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Does it work? Yeah, now. Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'm going to present a little bit Lowkey research. I'm really happy that you've come to listen to Creative Approach to Languages, and I'm really happy that I follow Monica and Polliana, because when you mentioned the dissociation of creativity learning and pleasure, I hope that I'll bring some ideas that associate those things. So I say a few words about, well, theoretical background and research that takes place at the Maastricht University in Brno, but I focus on the actual application, so on the tasks and activities that influence creativity in classes, and then I mention some of the feedback. So when we dealt with creativity in our classes, we had to pick up characteristics that would be applicable to university classrooms, to university language classrooms. So we looked for specific things that could actually help us with language learning and teaching. And we well, this is not a definition, but this is a collection of characteristics that we find important for creativity in language class. So it is a natural function of intelligence of every individual that takes many forms, has different levels, and draws from a variety of capacities. And this is very important for the language, because a lot of people associate language with just one capacity, but we will see that there are a lot of them. Okay. Theoretically, how the creative approach to language teaching works, the framework is well, fits into Csikszentmihalyi's systems models. Then we use the creative thinking that are, well, those things that are trainable, so fluency, flexibility, elaboration, originality. We also introduce students to the barriers of critical thinking and creative thinking and divergent thinking, thanks to Ken Robinson's ideas. We use Edward Bono's thinking heads for the combination of thinking and speaking. And finally, this is what I'm going to mention, is the situational Ben Crowell's idea of how creative situation and solution things can be combined. Okay, the research started in 2009. The first results started to appear in 2015. The type is action research, so as I'm saying, I don't have graphs and numbers of thousands of people who would do any tests, but basically it is classroom-based research. Those classes were always had to have a lot of characteristics similar, so that we could deal with it and compare and find out which tasks and activities would work and could be used later on. And since 2015, we started to work with teachers and apply those things in teacher training across the world, so that you know. Okay, so now let's take a look at the tasks and activities. As I said, just chose one for you to understand what we do. Here, Crowell's idea is that, well, creativity grows with the unclarity of situations on solutions. So basically, if we have a clear solution and clear situation, we are uncreative. Okay, so we behave in an automatic way. If I want to write a text message, I want to write an A, I just press an A, I don't think about it, I'm not being creative. But if I, well, make some of the either situations or solution areas unclear, I have to start to be creative, and this is where we are going, or what we are going to look at concerning the activities. So, as I'm saying, I'm skipping the first level. For language classes, it is the typical drill exercises or Gapfill exercises. You simply know that you are correct or incorrect. You fill in one word. You can't invent anything, think about anything. You either know or you don't know. Let's skip that. Let's move to the second level, when the situation is unclear, but you know that there is one correct answer. So you have to analyze the idea, you have to think about it, what to do, and well, only then you can come up to the solution. So let's take a look at one example. For example, problem, right now mom is 21 years older than her child. In 6 years, her child will be 5 times younger than she. And my question is, where is Daddy? Okay, and everybody starts to discuss, and again, well, this is language class, so discussion, we are looking for daddy, okay? But we know that this is the second level, so there is one correct answer. This is a mathematical problem. As you can see, it's 0.75 minus. If we think we are talking about babies or people and years, 0.75 is 3/4. 3/4 of a year is 9 months. It is minus, so it is 9 months because before the baby is born, so daddy is probably with mummy, okay? So this is the mathematical joke that it comes from. Okay, so this is the level 2, okay? Let's move to the level 3, when the instructions are clear, the situation is clear, but the solution is unclear. It means there is not a single correct answer to that question. There can be many, many different ones. So, for example, academic writing. A lot of people outside of English native-speaking world do not know what, for example, academic paragraph should look like. So before we start working with that, we send students, and the instructions is, go to Google and find songs on academic paragraph. The instruction is pretty clear. Okay, you know what you should do. You should share the link on academic paragraph in our discussion forum, for example. But what they find out, well, it's completely, there can be millions of songs, there doesn't have to be any song. Where they are looking for it, it's up to them. They have to be creative at that moment. And you as the teacher, you cannot say, well, you are correct, you are incorrect. No. Everybody who brings anything, or even if they don't find anything, it's still the procedure that they've been through that is important. And sometimes it also brings, like, good examples. Well, you know what internet brings, so mostly it is crazy things, but I just showed 2 examples.
The topic sentence is at the top. It tells the reader what's coming up. The middle has sentences 3 to 4. They explain the topic, but nothing more.
Okay, that would go on, and there is another example.
Chapter 6, coherence, choose what we present today. Style towards clarity and grace. Williams throws it in your face. What's the point? You may ask. Well, listen, true and clear. We'll explain issue and discussion and importance of a point. A clearly stated point is a vital element for writing coherent paragraphs.
Okay, so when you talk about dissociation of fun and pleasure in learning, you can see where these students are not bored automatically by just the word of academic writing. They get into the idea that it can be fun, it can be done differently. It is, for us teachers, it is an outside of class activity, so we gain more time to work with them. It is a kind of the flipped classroom as well of topics. So this is one type. Another type of this third level is, again, clear instruction. Find a text you believe represents whatever you like as a teacher, and share a part of it with the rest of your group. I've had so many teachers complaining about the time they spend looking for fantastic text. They're going to work with the students, and then the students are bored. They do not like it, obviously. We are very different than the students very often. So why, at university, very important, the students are not studying the language, they are studying their fields. So language is just the tool. So how to make them more motivated, go to your own field, bring your own text. Me as teacher, I do not have any work with that. On the other hand, I'm getting an excellent database of things. And students need to bring what they believe is either high quality text or text that characterizes certain style or whatever. Again, whatever they bring is fine. There's not one correct answer to this. It can't be. That's one thing. Another thing is that it automatically generates a lot of different activities. So even if my first idea was just to present text analysis or deal with text analysis, there are many other things that come in, and we see the individual learning styles, the individual learning needs, and language learning needs. So this is very important to see as this part that one type of creativity generates another type of creativity. And the final part is the situation that is unclear and the solution that is unclear. And this is theoretically the most creative situation. We don't know much what's going on, but we know that something must be done, okay? That can be, let's say, characterized in this way. So there is an example of a course called Competencies in International Academic Communication. When the students come to the course, they are told at the first session that at the end of the course, they should come up with 10 recommendations for international communicators in academia. What they do, they don't get any theories, any ideas what's international or intercultural, whatever communication is. What they do is they communicate with students in Argentina, in Sweden, and in China. In Argentina, concerning some academic writing. In Sweden, video conferencing and just speaking. In China, they have a very complex task. They are put to groups, 2 or 3 Chinese, 2 or 3 people in the Czech Republic, and the Chinese get a picture of a pedestrian bridge in Brno, and vice versa. Brno people get pedestrian bridge in Shanghai. Then, this is the only thing they get, and the task is to film 1-minute video about that bridge. So what they do, they have to contact the people in Brno, they have to find out what the bridge is about, technicalities, history, connotations, whatever. Based on them, they have to invent a story. They have to instruct the people in the Czech Republic to record things, send pictures, and so on, so that they can produce the video. And here is one example. Yeah, okay. I just hope it will work. No, it will not. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but as you can see, there are a lot of communication being done behind. Of course, the quality of the video is unimportant. What is important is the communication around. So for them, the creativity part is, what do we focus on? Is it the video? Is it the communication? Is it the whatever? It's up to them, and then at the end of the course, we analyze it. So this is the 4th level. Before I go to the feedback from the students, I just say that apart from written feedback, we respect the idea that students are different, so we offered also complementary, different types of feedback. For example, they can write it in music, they can write it in formulas, they can draw it, and just to say, the students in 70%, they would recommend such courses to their colleagues. What was interesting was that they understood that the methods were different, they liked that it is focused on students, that they work without teachers, and the work at home is interesting. What they didn't like was lack of evaluation of assessment. And the teachers, in teacher training feedback, they realized that we influence the learning situations a lot as teachers, and we should step back a little bit and give more responsibility to students. So the cards can be characterized as limited, success, fail, or correct incorrect situations, proactive environments, student-generated materials, and peer collaboration. Sorry, thank you very much.
Thank you, such a beautiful presentation. Is there any questions? Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Kim van Broeko from Maastricht University in the Netherlands. Thank you for your presentation, really interesting. I was curious, when looking at the training, or also the activity, so basically it seems also for the students a little bit unstructured, right? So they get, for example, the image of the bridge, and they have the freedom. Did any of the teachers perceive any, because we talked this morning already about individual differences, did the teachers perceive any differences among students, that some students couldn't cope with less structure? Because I can imagine that some students need this structure, and therefore they could even backlash a bit.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this question. Of course, this is essential. Every student is different. So, for example, the high complexity course or high creativity course, in the first session, they are told what is to be going on in the course, and we have at our university the possibility within the first 2 weeks to deregister or unregister and register to another course. So if they don't like the style, for example, of that particular course, they can leave. On the other hand, if, for example, such a course is, or different type of course is compulsory, and there are some activities that are highly creative, there are also 3 or 4 other types equivalents of that activities so that they can go and read about it, so that they can do it in a more traditional way. So there is always this variety. Yeah. And no teacher is forced into doing creativity things.
Thank you. One more question, last one if there is. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Bem, please. Do you know how to open the presentation? Okay. While you're doing the technical issues, I will present Bem. Is it okay? So Bem Le Hunte is the founding course director of the Bachelor of Creative Intelligence and Innovation at the University of Technology in Sydney, a transdisciplinary future-facing degree that combines with 25 different disciplines. She has her BA and MA social anthropology and from Cambridge University and a doctorate from the University of Sydney, as well as professional qualification in journalism and advertising. She has worked through 3 decades in the creative industries on over 500 brands. She is also a novelist and has been published globally to critical acclaim and written scripts for documentaries and films. She has just completed her 4th novel, cool for that, and is researching creativity in education whilst continuing to prototype approaches to the world's first transdisciplinary degree in creative intelligence. And the stage is yours.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. So this is a little bit of, I was asked what my methodology was when I submitted my abstract, and I guess it's action research, but the methodology I'm choosing to tell the story is, I guess, autoethnography, just for the purposes of this presentation, to give you some idea of what my world is and what it entails, and the creative exercise I've been involved in for the last 6 years in creating this degree, the Bachelor of Creative Intelligence and Innovation. Ooh. This is my culture. I'm from India. I'm half Indian, and it's relevant because my talk is on a curriculum for being. A lot of my ideas come from this place and some of the traditions. I'm also an anthropologist, like I said. I've worked in creative industries, lots on tech, from the launch of Windows 95 as creative director onwards. And I'm a novelist. And this statement here, I'll give you 1 second to look at it, is very much my approach to creativity and creative process, and its relationship to mystery. And so my doctorate was also on creativity and transcendence. I've always been interested in creativity as a spiritual practice, and interested in the history of creativity being a spiritual practice until the Enlightenment. And what has that done to our brains and the way we think of it now in terms of process? So I said I'd tell you a story. This is the first act. I had a dream. I saw a job advertisement for this job, for the Bachelor of Creative Intelligence and Innovation as the founding course director, and I didn't think that I would apply. I sent it to my husband, who sent it right back and said, "This is your job, Bem. It's got your name written on it. You apply." And so I forgot about it, and I then had a dream where I wrote the application. I have writing dreams, very boring and strange, I'm sure, but I wrote the application in my dream, and then I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning and decided to send off the application. And that got me into this whole world, new world of designing a discipline that wasn't a discipline, that defined disciplinary boundaries, that was undisciplined in a way, and to understand what creativity looks like in that context. Oh, and I should tell you some of the questions that I thought up when I was... It's a world-first transdisciplinary degree. It's won an award already, the Wharton Award for Reimagining Education. These were the original questions I had. How do you teach creative intelligence across disciplines? How best to develop interdisciplinary knowledge and practices that are transferable, creative practices that are transferable? Can there ever be such a thing as a formula for teaching unformulaic thinking? How do you teach that which defies analysis within the academy, which privileges analysis? I'm talking about the incubation phase. How do you turn the right and wrong answer seekers into creators of knowledge, not simply consumers of knowledge? How can you best teach the uncertainty inherent in creativity in a certain way, as per the demands of the academy? How do you get interdisciplinary staff to see knowledge in new ways? How do you teach students to step outside their disciplinary comfort zone when solving problems? How do you get the disciplines that see themselves as uncreative to start seeing themselves as creative? And then, I think this is an important one for educators, how will we have to reimagine the ordinary teaching and assessment process to make room for the rather mysterious, seemingly unrigorous and liminal processes that take place when learning to think creatively. So how best to teach in a way that privileges being, not knowledge, became my ultimate question, as you will see. So what is creative intelligence and what do? We do a lot of work around problem solving and problem finding, problem posing, and lots of work around problematizing and problem construction. We do a lot of work around unknowns. We do ignorance mapping because we combine with 25 different disciplines. So it's a combined degree. So from law and health to engineering and IT to communications, design, business, and so on. We do a lot of inventions, sponsored inventions. We do a whole course on creativity and complexity, which is possibly the most important course for our students because they live in an increasingly complex world. We do a whole two subjects actually on future thinking and future thinking methodologies. And we do entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship as well. Ultimately, I think it's a course for change makers, people who want to change the world as it currently exists, because a lot of our problems are connected problems now. And they're very motivated. So that's how it started off. And here's what I learnt in the kind of what evolved as it started out. What I realized I was trying to do is to find unity in diversity, which is the original idea of the university. And it's very interesting being in Bologna because Bologna had this concept and was one of the earliest universities in the world, if not possibly the oldest. Yeah. But they had this idea of a unity and diversity being together. And so you study something that is unified, but you also have this amazing creative impulse going outwards from all the disciplines. And so my job was kind of understanding the grammar book, to use Saussure's metaphor, of understanding la langue, not la parole, not speech, understanding the grammar book, not the speech. And so this is my metaphor for it, Amish Kapoor's sky mirror, trying to find the unity principles, what's in the sky above that we all share within the context that we currently have. And one of the things that I tried to do was enable the conditions to create a new type of transdisciplinary creative muscle, because I felt it was very different from the ordinary muscle. And this is just a little example of some of the ways we did this. We used a lot of method cards, so the academics write their own method card, and then students use it to explore a problem space, and they do this in the very first of around 13 schools. Here are some of the different method cards. I have a set I'll bring along tomorrow if anyone wants to have a look. And then we couldn't teach creativity without being really creative in the delivery of our course. So we've created all of these different ways of conducting activities, everything from think tanks and hackathons and Dragon's Den, think different sessions to sponsored inventions. We have an ideas arena, methods arena, future arena. We have experiments with your future government. We do complexity storytelling, Play-Doh capitalism to explore, the limits of our imagination in our economic models, catalytic question, and the whole thing goes on. So we don't do the lecture tutorial factory mode of delivery, which makes it a particularly interesting course to deliver. And one of the things in our manifesto is that it has to be as much fun for the staff as it is for the students, because we work with around 100 staff from all over the university beyond. We have 700 industry partners that our students work with, from Google to PwC to the Australian Defence Force and so on. So this is what it came to. By the end of Act 2, I kind of feel that what it is that we're doing is we're doing this incredibly complex work, and we're teaching students about complexity where we're throwing all of this material at them. And I love this quote from Nora Bateson: the opposite of complexity isn't simplicity, it's reductionism. And so my idea was not to have a reduced system, but this was the question that evolved. How then do we create an education system that isn't reductionist but utterly expansive, so the individual expands from the individual based on their passions, and where creativity plays a central role? And we're dealing with complex systems and a learning, adaptive environment. Students are in this very complex environment. They bring their own being to this from 25 different disciplines, and they're all in it together. This is a beautiful map we use of the complexity sciences and where it's got to so far in 2018. So given that there's an incredibly complex world, and I started to understand the why we need this so badly. And students are going to be taking, doing about 17 different jobs over 5 completely different fields in their lifetime. Very different workforce from today. Future of work is so different. How do we prepare them? A single degree can no longer do that, but creative thinking skills can. And this is a quote from one of our colleagues, Stuart Hill, who's an ecologist, social ecologist. And social ecology he describes as the discipline that sees the relationships between everything and everything, which is entirely creative. But he writes, most actions, if they're eventually he's talking about the stuck world and how we find solutions in this very complex world. And our world is more complex and networked and open and dynamic than it ever was, which means that we've networked our problems together. So our students, when they're tackling these major problems of our time, need to understand that they cannot do it just with one discipline. So most actions, if they are eventually taken, tend to focus on back-end, shallow, reactive, short-term, single-factor, heavy-handed, decontextual initiatives. In response to this stuckness, one of the solutions proposed is transformative education. And so that's what it evolved into. How do we create a transformative curriculum? And I love this quote from Johansson, which is, new discoveries, world-changing discoveries, will come from the intersections of disciplines, not just between them. So how do we create these creative thinkers who can think across disciplines becomes my ultimate question. And how do we separate ourselves, and how do we understand our own biases? So this is Vlad's work. I love this cartoon of the importance of perspective taking. Because, you know, the rhino that can only see its own horn in every creative product is a problem. Some of all the exercise in. So I'll just go back to this for it. We do an exercise in what we called recognition of prior living. In Australia, if you've done a course before, you get recognition of prior learning. But recognition of prior living is who you are meets what you're learning, meets the discipline you've come from, and the only thing with all of these knowledges is the knowledge maker. So this is the transdisciplinary curriculum, the T-shaped graduate. I refigured it as the cross-shaped graduate because as well as the depth of the single discipline and the breadth of many disciplines, there's this other dimension of being that needs to be explored, the knower, not just the knowledges. And that's what we've ended up doing, this transformative curriculum. And one of the things that all good stories have an ending, and my ending is an invitation. One of the best stories I ever read is Jam Fruit Tree by Carl Muller, that ends with, if you ever come to Sri Lanka, come and look me up, we'll have a party. Well, I want to kind of have that ending here, and I want to invite anyone who's interested in coming to help co-design a curriculum for being, which is what I'm working on, to a utopian community in Auroville, in South India called Auroville in January, because we've taken one group of students there. It was the most outrageously successful school to date, and it's an incredible place that combines many different kinds of knowledges and also looks at that integrating of knowledge. So that's my invitation, as well as to come and talk to me about any readings you think might be relevant to the work I'm doing. I'd love to invite some interaction, and if my work can be linked or you can find useful for your studies, I'm very impressed with the amount of scientists are here, just let me know. So thank you for listening to me and for hearing the story, and That's my email address. It doesn't.
Thank you, Bem. Thank you so much.